Welcome to Alaskwatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. So I was in Eastern Washington in 2019, and we were filming Bigfoot encounters in the Pacific Northwest. And it was our last night at this location that Will Ulmer had taken us to. He's a very excellent Bigfoot investigator and enthusiast. I believe his YouTube handle is Grassman58. Anyway, he had taken us to this area, and it was really crazy. There was knocks and screams and howls, and we had been there for a few days, and it was our last night. And I was amazed at all this activity I was hearing, but I hadn't seen anything, and I really wanted to have a sighting. So we had gone on a hike down this old logging road. It was really creepy. Like, all the vegetation was all like hanging over the road. It wasn't maintained. It was really squatchy looking. So we had walked a pretty good ways and had decided to turn around and head back. And I was kind of disappointed because I hadn't seen anything yet. And so I asked the rest of the group that was with us, I said, will you guys go ahead? You know, I have to go to the bathroom, and I'll hang out a little bit before I trail behind. And if anything is like trailing us or following us behind, you know, I'll intercept it. So, you know, I do my business on the side of the road. I'm not thinking like this is exactly how like every missing 411 story starts. I'm not thinking anything like that. I'm just thinking, you know, I want to see something. I'm getting desperate. So the group goes on ahead. I wait a few minutes. I want to build up a little bit of a gap in between me and them. And I get my FLIR device out of my backpack, and I'm scanning the opposite side of the road. And it's not dark yet, but it's later in the evening. And I'm not seeing anything. And my back is to the tree line on the opposite side of the road from where I'm FLIRing. And I'm just FLIRing and not really paying attention. And I hear in my left ear, it sounds like something, maybe just a few syllables, just a whisper, just, and freaks me out. I spin around, I look, I don't see anything. I'm FLIRing, I don't see anything. You know, I'm even looking up in the trees, because this is mountain lion country too. You know, we found the tracks of just about every kind of animal you can imagine, including probably Sasquatch tracks. And when I saw the mountain lion tracks, I was like, oh, I'm a little out of my element here. I don't really know anything about mountain lions. I can handle bears and moose and even Sasquatch, but I don't know anything about mountain lions. So I'm scanning. I don't see anything. And it was just like a switch was flipped, and I was afraid. It was the weirdest thing. And so I don't run, but I walk quickly and catch up with the group about the time they get back to the truck. And I'm telling them, I'm like, man, something really weird just happened back here. I don't know what it was. I thought I heard a whisper, and then like it freaked me out really bad, and I didn't see anything with my FLIR. And you know, everybody was like, oh, well, that's kind of weird. But it didn't seem to faze anybody else like it fazed me. And of course, I'm trying to rationalize it too. I'm like, well, maybe there was some air in my water bottle, and when I turned, it got, you know, squished, and it made like a sound. And so I'm checking my water bottle, and it's tight. It's, you know, there's no air leaking out of that thing. So it bothered me. And we get back to camp, and I could tell, you know, at one point Will Ulmer says, you know, I'm feeling a little, you know, the vibe's off. Something feels a little weird. And of course I'm still vibing from what happened on the road. So I'm like, yeah, man, like something's not right. And everybody else just seems like, oh, we got to go to bed and get up early in the morning so we can leave. And uh, I'm not feeling it. I'm just like, you know, if somebody had said like, oh, maybe we should leave now and go into town and get a hotel, I'd have been like, I'll pay for it. Like, let's go. So everybody kind of eventually like drifts off to bed except for me and Will. And it's nighttime now. It's dark, and our campsite is kind of here, almost up against the lake, and then there's a big hill on the other side across the street from us. And most of the activity that we've been hearing over there was coming from up on that hill. And I can't explain it other than to say that I just had the most irrational fear that something was going to come over that hill, like the Zulu Nation, and get us. Like, I don't know if it was Sasquatch or what. Like, I just felt a fear. And I've been in some hairy situations before from my previous career, and I've been concerned for my safety, but I can't say that I've ever really felt fear like that. And they always told us that when you're subconscious, when your spidey sense kicks in, that's your subconscious has noticed something that's off, and it's trying to warn you about it. So Will and I set up that night. I've got my pistol, he's got his shotgun, and we're feeding the fire. He gets up a couple times, goes over to his campsite to get more wood, and I'm just like terrified. And we hear some vocalizations, we hear some noises, but not as much as we had been hearing. And again, I'm sitting there scared to death. I don't know what's going on. And I think it was about, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but it was really in the wee hours in the morning. We're sitting there in our camp chairs. Everybody else is laid out in their tents asleep. And we hear this big, just boom. It wasn't quite a gunshot. It didn't have the crack of a gunshot. And it didn't quite sound like metal on metal. It was just a big boom. And Will looks at me and he's like, is it just me, or did the atmosphere change? Or did the mood change? I don't remember which word he used. But I was like, no, you're right, man. Like, it was like somebody just flipped a switch and I wasn't scared anymore. And I got up eventually and went and got my tent and got some sleep so I could drive us out of there the next day. And that is the weirdest and creepiest thing that has ever happened to me, and I cannot explain it. I don't know what it was. People talk about infrasound and stuff like that. I don't know. Sometimes with the missing 411 stuff, you hear people talking about loud noises and booms or screeches, like a metal door opening or something. I don't know. I don't know if any of that had anything to do with what I experienced, but I can't explain it, and I don't necessarily think it was something that can be explained away by like, oh, there was a mountain lion behind you and you were feeling infrasound. I've lived in Alaska a long time, as well as being in a lot of other states that have snakes and bears and mountain lions and stuff like that, and I've never quite felt that type of fear, intense fear, for that long. I mean, this went on for hours until we heard that loud sound, and then it just went away. And that is probably the strangest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. So one of the creepiest stories about Alaska that I ever heard, I heard it while I was researching Abandoned, The History and Horror of Port Chatham, the book I wrote about Port Chatham. And it has to do with Kachemak Bay here. And there was a group of hunters, native hunters, out in their little bidarkas, which are kind of like canoes. And they're out on a hunting trip, and they're in the bay paddling around, and they see another group of hunters and another bidarka. And they can't really see them, but they're like, who are those guys? Because they know all the other hunters from all the other villages nearby. And they're like, we don't recognize those guys. Let's go see who they are and see what they're up to. So they all paddle furiously to try and catch up to the strangers. And the strangers seem to like start paddling faster, like they're trying to stay away from them, like they're trying to elude them. So they kind of have like a little Bidarka race where the hunters are trying to catch up to the strangers, and finally they catch up to the strangers, and the strangers are kind of hiding their face and they won't look at them. And eventually the hunters are just like, what is going on? Like, show yourselves. Who are you? And finally the strangers reveal their faces, and they only have one eye in the center of their heads and their foreheads. And the hunters are shocked, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? Who are you? And they say, well, we have a hidden village nearby here, and we're shunned by most people because of the way we look, so we try not to like intermingle with the normal people, and we've been here for years. And they talk a little bit, and they end up like exchanging meat with them. They have a good interaction, and then they part ways, but they never see them again. And that was just, to me, one of the creepiest things, because it almost gives Port Chatham a Skinwalker Ranch type vibe, where you have a lot of different activity kind of intermingling. You have the stories about Bigfoot, you have the ghost stories, you have the strange disappearances and murders, and now you have these strange one-eyed people. And are they connected? Are they not connected? Is Port Chatham a window area? Who knows? But that was probably the most surprising thing that I found during my research of that book, because I'd never heard anything quite like it. And I didn't find anything else like that. No other references to the one-eyed people. So, yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's certainly creepy. And every once in a while, I wonder, are those one-eyed people still out there somewhere, still just living off the land?